that's like, how we started, tracking and stuff. But, a very big unexpected thing that happened. I was, really, really excited to make the record and have everyone in town. I even bought like a few board games, for all of us to play, like me and Dan and Jordan and, anyone that came by, and just stuff to do on the side, because I was excited in this whole experience. And then, more reality happened where my cancer treatment that I was on stopped working. So I had to switch treatments. During that treatment, you sort of have to flush out your system to be on lists for experimental drugs or things like that. Not knowing, very quickly being off of everything, everything went terrible. I started having heart failure. I got on I was on literally 25 blood pressure meds alone just to get my blood pressure to 150, which is high. And that's on 30 pills. Now, thank God, I'm on 0 blood pressure medicine. And my blood pressure is low. And I'm on 0 pills. So things turned around, but it got really scary because I would go in to record and then I would go to the hospital. So there was a day where I went in early, I tracked, went in, Dan from Fourier drove me, so Ian can do some bass parts. While I was at the hospital, I'd go to the hospital, get my heart scanned, get all this stuff done, to make sure, I wasn't, I was dying, truthfully, and it got that bad, and there was, another day where, I would be there and I'd record and then I'd have to go, my tumors eat all my sugar in my body, right? So my sugar alarm, because I wasn't on any medicine and I was between medicines, my sugar alarm would go off like crazy, right? Like insane. And so I'd have to go to get something done for my stomach and whatever to check my, sugars or whatever. And I remember Dan and our friend Ghetto Josh, who sings on the backing on the record and does merch for us and is one of my close friends, I started fainting because I was running out of sugar in the lobby of the hospital, and they had to run to my car and get apple juice, and I was seeing white, I couldn't see, and I was just and then I would get it together, do the tests, and then go to the studio and record guitars. And then I'd leave, and then Dan would drive me home, or if there was parts where I would finish and be done and need a double of the track, Dan would double the take for me, so I wouldn't have to overdo my energy. So I was able to lay down the foundation of the record. And talking about the scary things in life that we go through and using them as an advantage, one thing that came out really cool was Jordan's very insecure for a lead singer. A lot of people, there's people in the past that thought he had an ego because he didn't say anything back to them or something. And it was because he was insecure. He's the most down to earth, so lucky to have a lead singer like Jordan, so down to earth. But me being someone who's written the melodies, you grow to where you are married to an idea, right? So what this did was I couldn't stay late. So I would leave and I would say, Jordan, you just do you. Take the melody, go off, you guys sing however. So I would come in the next day and I would hear the song and the melody, and there'd be things that were different and changes and little differences in parts that I loved and that I never would have thought of. And that never would have happened if I was 100% well, because I would have been there and been like, no, it should sound like this. This is what I came up with. It should sound like this. So it really like took the record to the next level, where it sort of forced Jordan to just go off, you know, and sing in the mic as he would live, you know, where it wasn't polished, where it wasn't a forced melody. It was really, really engaged by, you know, energy and, you know, the inspiration from the lyrics and stuff like that. So it was really cool. It was an advantage. Unfortunately, it was on me trying to stay alive. But it was one of those weird things that happened naturally that, you know, was all, you know, turned out to be a benefit. So when you listen to the album, you'll hear it's Jordan, very raw, very real, very emotional, and just like this energy to the record that I think came alive because he was by himself with just the producer. And it wasn't like, and I told him, I was like, dude, don't worry about being perfect. Don't worry about being on key. I'm like, you're naturally on key. People think you use auto-tune live, and he's never used auto-tune once in his life, ever. His voice just sounds like that. It's just literally like he's just on, you know, he's just a great singer. So it was like, it really was a cool thing. It really, like, I think elevated and added this energy and this sort of thing to the album that wouldn't have existed. But thank Dan from Four-Year, because Dan was driving me to the doctor's appointments and the hospital, and, you know, he'd come home with me and we'd watch TV shows. He'd set up a chair next to my bed, you know, and I was like, he was there with me, trying to get, you know, helping me at home, staying with me, you know, helping me with like medications and stuff like that. And just like, you know, what started is like, I'm going into this record to have a good time. It's going to be awesome because I'm going to be whatever. And just all of a sudden, you know, like I said, I had to change medications. And in that period, things got very, very scary.